Hi everyone, this is my leopard gecko Chusey, and today we're going to build a vivarium background. We're not building a background for Chusey though, that's already been made, and as you can see that's playing in the background, just showing it off before we do a step-by-step guide for the next one. Someone asked after looking at mine if I'd be able to help, and I thought why not, and we decided to record the process to create a guide that everyone else could follow, trying to make it a little bit easier when building your own vivarium. So there's a couple of things that you're going to need, and as obvious as it may be, you're going to need an empty vivarium. If you've already got a leopard gecko or another reptile for example, it's not something that you can do while they're inhabiting it, so you have to make sure you've got a spare one. The stuff that I used after building it was polystyrene sheets for the background, some expanding foam, some grout in 2 different shades, animal safe PVA sealant, and that's very important. You don't want to be getting loads of chemicals inside somewhere that your small reptile will be living inside of. And some extra tools that you might need is a Stanley knife, a pair of scissors, a pencil and a ruler. So let's get started. As you can see, I've already put the polystyrene sheet and I've been making a small hole where the air vents are going to be. You can just tear it off of the polystyrene sheet, it's really easy, and in fact as it crumbles away it creates a sort of rocky texture which will work quite well when making the background. What you need to do to start is just make a small hole with a pencil. As you can see along the side, the polystyrene sheet didn't match up, it wasn't flush against the side wall, but it doesn't matter because there is going to be some more polystyrene that goes along its flank. So again, you just can slowly tear away, or better yet, use the Stanley knife to make a straight cut, and the other one will just slot straight in afterwards. Another thing to do is to get a feel of how you want the vivarium to look like. So you can use polystyrene sheets broken up like this to make walkways and platforms for your leopard gecko to either use or rest on. You do have to consider where the basking light's going to be, but it's good to just play around with different pieces, different spots, to try and figure out where they're going to be and what it will look like in the end. So here it is with a few of the sheets now in place. I've used cocktail sticks that I'm going to dull down if they're still sticking out, just to make a basic view of it. One of the features that was asked for when building this one was a tunnel that went flush along the back. And as you can see, a lot more of the ramps and platforms are based on the left hand side of the vivarium. That's because the basking light, where the heat is going to be generated from, is going to be on the right. So to avoid any risk, we're just not going to put a platform on that side. So now that you're comfortable with your backdrop and you've got the platforms in place, you're going to start using expanding foam. Make sure you've got some form of hand protection because you don't want it on your skin. But really you're just going to sort of spray it around, and as it dries it will keep expanding and eventually will become like an almost rock-like substance. But you do have to leave it overnight, if not a couple of nights, just for it to really set in. So you've left the expanding foam to dry, and as you can sort of see in the background, it's now expanded and is this sort of pebbly, weird sausage-like substance. And now to seal it all in place and to change the colour of it and give it a more interesting texture, the best thing to do is just to use some grout. This is a dark brown grout that I managed to find off Amazon, and you're just going to mix it 3/4 grout, 1/4 water, and you're just going to paint the whole thing. Every crack, every crevice, every little bit that you can find. I wish that I'd found a better way of doing the tunnel, but I eventually got there. Now this might seem a little odd, but you've already grouted the background, and so I'm now going to tell you to do it again, but with a different colour. The reason is that it just gives it a little bit more texture. It highlights the raised surfaces, so you're going to do a bit of a dry brushing technique. And what it will do is it will just create a variety of tones. So as you can see now, it's not just this dark brown that's dried, but there's this pale beige. There's a bit of variety and difference. And again, anything that's sort of raised, that comes a little bit further out of the wall, that'll be a brighter in colour, so it creates a bit of a shadow effect. And you know, as much as you like, keep going. So some areas you could dry brush more than others. Again, so as you look across the whole vivarium, it will be very different. So one side might be slightly paler. Again, it's not going to affect the overall care of your gecko or your reptile, but it just makes it nicer to look at. The grout will take a while to dry, a couple of days, especially if you're using multiple coats of highlighting, so just be patient with the process. But for one of the final steps is you're going to use PVA sealant. So what I've done is I've upturned the vivarium so it's now resting on its back, and I've coated the whole thing in PVA sealant. So you can see where it's already created pores in the crevices and in the cracks. It will give it a white glossy texture, but as it dries it will eventually just turn translucent and it will affect the style or look of the vivarium. But that is one thing you should think about when buying your PVA sealant, is make sure that it says somewhere that it dries translucent. The worst thing that you can do is buy something that will change the colour completely. So you've now coated the whole vivarium in expanding foam, grout. You're now at the final step with the PVA sealant. While it's still there on its back, I want you to chuck sand at it. What it will do is, as it's drying, the sand will stick to the surface, creating an actual rocky-like texture that the animal might find in the wild. And another good thing that will come of this is that it hides those little blemishes that you might have missed. As the PVA is literally coating the whole backdrop, the sand will stick everywhere. So maybe a little bit that you're not too happy with, try and focus where you chuck the sand, or try and place it purposefully to cover it. I found it quite difficult again with the tunnel. I think if I'd ever make another vivarium backdrop with a different method, I'd probably make more of a modular system so that I can really get into it, rather than having to spend hours struggling to paint the insides of a tunnel while also being inside the vivarium. So that's it really. You're now going to leave it for a couple of days for it to dry with the sand and PVA sealant. So the last couple of steps will be to make sure you've got everything for your reptile or leopard gecko to move in with. How many hides have you got? Is the heat bulb ready? And I suppose with that all said, shall we meet the leopard gecko that this backdrop is for? This is Mocha, the most chill leopard gecko I have ever met. She spent the whole time just sat in a little small box with no lid on, just watching us build and set up the vivarium. She has a beautiful pattern and a relaxed personality. But before we add her to the viv, let's just do the finishing touches. We've already added the light and the heat bulb. Now let's create the substrate, mixing sand and soil, and we'll get the hides in as well afterwards. But here is the vivarium. This is with it all set up, the background, a bit of sand and soil spread on the top. We've got a few hides, the tunnel is all done. We've even got some dried bamboo leaves along the side and in the centre. This is also the first time I made a bioactive build, so there are some bugs moving around in the soil beneath. But here's a bit of a close-up of everything. You can see the texture of the background. And that's what's great about using expanding foam with all the other textures added on, is that it doesn't fit to any form. It moves and expands how it wants to. So we're now at the point where she's ready to go in, and her reaction was stunned something. Was it amazement or just being nervous? As soon as we put her in, that was it. She was just sort of there. I think at first there was just a lot of stuff going off. She wasn't too sure on what to do. So she was just sort of trying to figure out, is this, her new home, or where is she? But after a couple of minutes of waiting, she started to take a couple of steps. As you can see on her back left foot, she's still shedding. So it's probably not the best time to move her into a new home. But she's just got this beautiful pattern, and the first thing that she goes for is the tunnel. She starts investigating it. She's trying to figure out, well, what is this place? And to be honest, after all the work that had gone into making it, it was really nice for her to go there first. That was where she wanted to be. And actually, for the remaining evening, that's where she stayed for a bit. But here is the backdrop again, just as a still image this time, just so you can have a good look at it. I had a lot of fun making this vivarium background. It was the second time it had been done. Again, it's not for a leopard gecko that I own. There are a lot of things that I feel like I've learned actually more from this build than I had the last one. And I think if I ever got a chance to build another vivarium background, I would do things quite a bit differently. For one, I wouldn't do it in the middle of winter while it takes even longer for everything to dry. That's one thing to consider, because I had it done in the garage. But overall, I'm really happy with how it turned out. I think the colours on the wall are really interesting. I like how it matches the sort of bark and wood that they've got in the vivarium. I think it also sort of matches her colour and gives her a little bit of camouflage, not that there's anything that she needs to hide from. But more importantly, tell me what you think. I want to know if you like it, if you think there's ways I could have done better next time, if there's anything in particular you want to ask, like was there any products specifically that I would recommend, just drop a message in the comment section. I'll try and answer as fast as I can. And I know I say it pretty much at the end of all my videos, but I really do appreciate the support and the feedback that I get. So thank you again, and we'll see you in the next one.